Welcome to Pivot Happens, the plucky little podcast that could, with Anne Kingston and denMeer.
Episode 3, Pivot as a Verb, with special guest Laura Howard.
Hey, welcome once again to the Pivot Happens podcast, the plucky little podcast that could. I am one of your hosts, denMeer.
And I'm Anne Kingston, the other host.
And today we have special guest Laura. Our friend Laura is here. And we're inviting people to come here and talk about their pivots, and that's exactly what Laura's going to do today. We're calling this episode Pivot as a Verb. And so the topic we kind of want to stick to as best we can. But we do our best, but we do meander a bit here and there because we're meanderers. Meanderers are pivoters, I believe. But because we want to talk a little bit about how I call it inspired action. It's like pivots. It's like waiting for, like they always say when you want to be dating someone, waiting for them to come knock on the door. That's not going to happen. If you want to be dating someone, you have to put yourself in the line of fire. You know what I mean? And so that's when we talk about pivot, and throughout this whole thing, we also have kind of an unspoken underlying theme of you have to make some pivots happen. If you want to make a pivot happen, you have to make it happen, and you have to take action. So we're going to kind of focus around that today. And I think one of the really interesting reasons about both Anne Kingston and Laura, or an interesting thing about both of them, I'll get this out, is that they are both archaeologists. And trained archaeologists. That is what they have their master's degrees in. And I know when I tell people I work with quite a few archaeologists, they're like, I don't know any archaeologists. And I was saying to Anne earlier, I think it's because they have this visual of Indiana Jones unearthing the mummy, unearthing tombs in Egypt.
Yeah. And the romanticized version of archaeology. Yes.
Yes. And you can have a fedora or not, but generally, you guys, I mean, you spend a lot of time, like when people are digging things, are doing construction or whatever, making sure they're not unearthing treasures and protected things.
Yep.
So
watching construction most of the time, or pre-construction work.
Yeah. So I thought it would be interesting if Laura, you want to tell us a little bit about how you started there and kind of where you went from there and how you ended up?
Yeah, and I like that. I really like that that you're titling this podcast as verb, a verb, pivot as a verb, because I just think some of those forced pivots, and I think we brought that up and talked a little bit about that before, but those forced pivots are still like something is still going on. It's not something you're actively choosing. It's not your pivot that you chose, but there's still going to be reaction as part of it. So I like that you kind of titled it that. But yeah, that's one of the things that what happened to me was I've got a lot of pivots in my life. And really growing up, we moved a tremendous amount of time. So there was a lot of forced pivots there within that. So when I was able to start making my own pivots and making my own decisions and those things, that was like a really nice. So that whole thing of ones that you don't choose and ones you do choose, these pivots it's big, and reflecting on those and as much as you can in a positive way, the forced ones, I think is like a really important part of these pivots.
Yeah.
Is a lot of stuff happened to a lot of us growing up, different, whatever it is that we grew up with or have had in our past. And it's very hard to not look at it in a negative way.
Yeah.
But like for Anne and I, one of the things about us and like our history, our shared history of our degree and whatnot is that it's like, we wouldn't be where we were. We wouldn't be here today doing this podcast. Whether those are forced things or not, or chosen things, it's that, and that's reflecting on it in a positive way. Yeah. So, that's one of the things that Anne mentions is that, as talked about in the past, is that it's like, well, we did all this, we've had these degrees, these masters in archaeology, anthropology, and I think she'd agree, and we agree both. I think that it's not for nothing, basically, because
Right.
No.
the things that we learned, like life skills that we learned, and the situations we were put in, and just the whole basket. It's a big basket. There's a lot of stuff. But I wouldn't change it. Like I wouldn't change that. Yeah, now I'm doing something different career wise, work wise. But I wouldn't change that pivot, even though, yeah, when I started out in it, my idea was, yeah, I'm going to be an archaeologist, or I'm going to teach, or I'm going to, and mine was actually, I wanted to have my own firm. Like I had the idea of owning, an archaeological firm. Small. I had no visions of it being some major, nationwide archaeological firm, but that is what I was kind of, aiming for. And things change, and again, I wouldn't change it, because some of the decisions I made after that were based on that as well. So
I think too, it's always important to remember with things like, no matter what it is and how you've changed it, how you veered from what you thought day one everything was. And we've talked about this before. A lot of times we make these, we're 18 years old, 18 whole years old, and we're
That's a good
supposed
point.
to be picking what we're going to do. And back when, again, repping Gen X here, back when we were coming up, it was like, you get out of high school, you pick a career, you go to college, and then you do that career. I mean, there was still a lot of that mindset. So, but I think what all of us who've chosen to pivot away from that, and not, because to me, what would be worse than spending 40 years doing something you don't love? I mean, eesh. Or isn't, satisfying for you, but is that none of that can be taken from you. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
And you need it. I think always remember that it wasn't wasted time. And that's just what you're getting at there. It's like, it wasn't wasted time. It was part of the journey. It was part of, trusting that the universe, whatever it is, has a bigger plan for you. And that was the route you took in the beginning. So,
yeah. I mean, that's what I say, is we wouldn't be here today. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't have the opportunity to, have both of you, actively in my lives. And it's super important to me now. And it's just so odd. I mean, it's like, that's like a real positive thing for me. Like, that's really odd. And it's like, just how everything just kind of puts together. And then it's like, I don't know. It's just so, that is a comforting thing to me. So it's like, you had these pivots, and you would tend to look at them as negative. But if you look at the whole picture and you're satisfied where you are now, or you're getting satisfied, or you're in, content, basically content. I like to use the word content as opposed to like happy. Like I like the happy, that's for sure. But I feel like happy is like that real high and then low. So I always feel like if you're content, your needs are met, those kind of things. It's like just bizarre how things work out, in a positive way.
Yeah.
Very positive.
And you went from, you started out in like straight up archaeology, but then you ended up kind of going into sort of archaeological tourism. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a good way. Yep. Yeah. It morphed a little bit from, because they did have courses. I took some courses on public archaeology. And I think Anne, may have taken some of those classes as well. And so that was actually, you could do a special. Yeah. You could do a special. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
And so that's kind of what happened, was you do this public archaeology, which you focus on interacting with the public, with the archaeological record. So it can be anything from, interpretation that goes on signs at parks, or it can be touring people around, or it can be even going to like meetings and putting forth like what the, what's going on.
I didn't even know that was a thing. So so like public information specialist kind of thing.
Yeah.
A little bit, Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's and that's what you said, is then I switched. So I was archaeology, like as a science, and field archaeology, and then morphing and pivoting to public archaeology and more, and then even tourism. So because I went to Belize. I lived there for 5 years and worked at a research center. And we did do archaeology, like we were doing field archaeology, but it was a lot of public archaeology. I mean, it was a lot of introducing the people that came to visit that area to what the archaeological ruins that were there were all about, like the history and everything. So I got interested in doing that. And then, started doing some travel off of that. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And you kind of still give some potential to that coming back into your life again?
I do. I have not ruled that out just because it's such an interest of mine, and so that could be yet another upcoming pivot that could, potentially look into, trying to have that be, because it's almost like a hobby. I just have oh my gosh, I'm not kidding you, the best time going in and looking at what is it that people, whether it's myself or another or someone else, based on their interest, what can they do when they go somewhere and travel? And it doesn't even matter, even here, like in South Florida or wherever, just all this little side things that you can do that are a little bit more than a tourist attraction, where you actually get immersed a little bit more in like the people that are there, or the food, or, understanding the history there. I really do love that. So yeah, hopefully that is something that,
you can really tell, because you kind of come alive when you talk about it. You can tell like you got a lot of passion there.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's very cool.
And that's what I figure is, if you have that, then you're able to sell it. Because I'm not a salesperson.
Yes.
Sales was very hard for me.
Yes.
I tried some sales jobs. It was just ridiculous. I couldn't sell. It was just terrible. Like, I just think about that. I don't know how those people sell things and get people to buy.
I know. It's a gift. It is certainly a gift. People who can sell, and I think they have really thick skin.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I don't think rejection bothers them as much as it does the average person. Or they just, it's like, I have never, obviously I spent time working in marketing, which is a facet of sales, but to me, and I know, like, even when I've had my own business and stuff, that I can do a certain kind of sales, like advertising sort of sales. That's fine with me. But actually trying to go to somebody and try to get them to buy something, not my jam. Not my jam at all. So, that sounds very cool. And it's also very cool that, you still have that pivot within you. You know what I mean?
Possible.
You haven't let go of that. Mm-hmm. And that's important, because I think maybe a pivot can even be kind of a turnstile. Obviously writing, that's how it was. You know what I mean? It's not like I spent the last 30, 40 years writing and living as a writer, and yet on and off, up and down, different times, and now here it is back again. Because that's a lot of where my passion lies, and I know for Anne too. Mm-hmm. So, Anne, you also started out in the archaeology world and pivoted out of that too. Do you have
my start was when I met Laura, actually. Well,
That's right.
No, it's crazy, but that's the truth. I say this in a bougie way, that Laura and I met in an archaeological field school in Italy, but we did technically, but we also technically met at the same college. And I don't know if you know this, Laura, but I just remember that I think I was an undergrad when you were in grad school, and you were the TA of the field school in the anthropology department, and your reputation preceded you. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, it did. And
I'm not surprised.
It did. Your reputation preceded you, because we heard all about Laura, the TA, when no, seriously. Yeah. And then I think that I took the field school after yours. And then I think that's when we ended up being connected on the dig when we went to Italy and worked on a Etruscan site. So, which was really cool.
When you talk about it like that, that sounds pretty sexy. When you're talking about going to digs and Etruscan sites in Italy, it's like, yeah, that's you got your fedora and your whip now. Okay.
Yeah.
The hill we had to climb up every day was pretty rough, I will tell you. Do you remember that hill?
The hill and the roads. Like, I never got car sick. I never had been car sick. I got car sick there.
Yeah.
And it's just because it was, so many switchbacks and stuff on the road. Yeah. I was just like, wow. And if they drove like crazy too.
Yeah.
That didn't help either. But
and then the roads are narrow, especially in the not the cities. They're really narrow as you are out of the city. And the part that we digress, but I think the reason also is too, every time you were going on a switchback, every time you got to one of those curves, you had to honk your horn, because if somebody else was flying down the other direction, you both had to know you were coming on the same space at the same time. But yes, it was a survival of the fittest thriving, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, oh
But
yeah.
okay, so to answer your question, yes, I was in the same kind of general path that Laura was in, and that's kind of how we met. I did archaeology, I don't know, maybe about 15 years. Moved to a lot of different places to work. Had a lot of fun. And then I think that when I decided, okay, I'm going to start having a family, it just was timing. And it was one of those things you just kind of can't predict or control. But I had my son in 2008, and I got laid off right after he was born, like literally 2 months after he was born. So that was a pretty big pivot. It was a really big pivot. And because I was doing what was called cultural resource management focused archaeology, which is based on U.S. federal government regulations. I know it's a mouthful. U.S. government regulations on particular types of work. And in this case, it was federal funded projects like roadways getting built or bridges or, on a military installation, things like that, where money was being put into those projects as part of the U.S.'s laws to be good stewards for our history. That's what CRM came from. And so that's what I did. I just worked as a cultural resource management archaeologist, and we always surveyed for roads and did things like that. And a part of that job was writing proposals. So you were always putting estimates together. And so as I was searching for a job, I really wasn't sure if I wanted to get back into archaeology, especially having a baby at home, because you travel so much. I mean, a lot. And it was a very weird, crazy, scary decision. But I started to apply for jobs that were just outside of archaeology. And I don't know how I found what I found in marketing. But I found a job in proposals.
None of us do.
Here I am.
None of us do. It is a job that you don't go to school for it. You don't even know about it, that it exists, and then all of a sudden you're there, and it's like this whole secret world of proposals. Yeah.
And the part I think that I think for about a good 3 years after I transitioned out of the professional field of archaeology, I was ashamed.
Yeah,
I was ashamed. I felt like, I wasn't the ones who made it till the end. Like, who thinks these things? But yes, I did. Who doesn't make it to the end as a professional archaeologist? And I know. Seriously,
maybe we need the armchair, the amateur, the unprofessional armchair psychologist. So, Laura, do you have
I know that's a part of me. I know if I'm going to psychoanalyze myself, I know that a part of it has to do with like me feeling good enough. I totally get that part, and that would be a whole nother show. But the part that's really cool though is, yes, I was ashamed for a good amount of years after the fact. I was even afraid to tell people that I had a degree in archaeology in my newfound career. But I think something kind of clicked. I don't know, about 5 years, 6 years after the fact, where I was like, no, I'm a fucking unicorn. I'm a fucking hot ticket. I've got the technical experience. I've got the writing experience. I'm a really good technical writer. I got a lot to offer. And it was just like, okay, so, oh wow, wait a second. And it was just, I just looked at it differently. And the other part, Laura, that I don't know if you kind of thought this at one point in time, but it was like, oh, I'm evolving into,
I love that,
where I'm supposed to be, and my master's degree and my archaeology and my technical writing and even the graphic design that I would have to teach myself as an early archaeologist, putting my own reports together that would be submitted to state, agencies. It all came together and it all made sense. So anyway, that's in a nutshell, if that was a nutshell. But yeah.
I think that, I mean, shame is probably one of the most basic human feelings and emotions, and it's primal. It's a primal thing. It's I don't fit into my tribe, and boy, if you're a wild animal and you don't fit in with your herd, you're in trouble. So I know it's all of that, but I think that shame and fear of shame can be such an enemy to progress. You know, it's like
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I didn't I wouldn't tell people that I'd gone to law school because it kind of I think a lot of times they'd be like, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What are you doing? You know, it would bring up more questions or whatever. And some places when I would tell them, they sort of thought maybe I could do some side legal stuff for them. And it's like, I am no more an attorney than anyone in this room. And actually that's practicing law without a license. I'm enough of an attorney to know that's not okay. So, but actually, and then when I started working where we are now, I told people, and people were like, really, you do now? And I'm like, yeah, because where I work now, it doesn't seem like a very big deal to have a law degree. Because, I mean, I work with, how many people do I work with? Almost everybody on my team has a master's degree in something. A lot of them archaeology, anthropology, and other things. And then we work with so many PhDs, high-level engineers, other people who actually did finish law school, who are attorneys who are doing stuff. And it's like, yeah, nobody thinks it's that big a deal where I work now. So it's like, I don't care if people know. It's like, yeah. Sometimes I will tell people that like when I'm working with a newer team or something, because I want them to know it's like, this is my perspective. I'm coming into what we're doing here. So you can understand I'm going to be thinking content, thinking compliance, thinking, you know, those are going to be my areas of focus. And also to just let them know, you know, it's like, I've got things to offer here. So, you know, don't worry, you're in good hands. You know, but I totally, I know that I have told you guys about how I had really mean grandparents on one side, and I had a really mean grandpa. And when I left, well, actually it was, I started out in pre-med, and because I, you know, was trying to show the world whatever I could do, or whatever I had a lot of pressure to do something kind of big, and I didn't like that at all. It wasn't where I belonged in, so I switched into pre-law. And every time I would see my grandpa, every single time he would say to me, "What are you doing in school?" And I'd be like, "I'm in pre-law." And he's like, "I thought you were going to be a doctor." Every single time, and he knew it, and he was doing it just to. So that, you know, but again, that kind of external shame of you said you were going to do it, so you better stick with it. It's like, fuck that bullshit. I'm sorry. And anybody out there, wherever you are in life, listening to this, and you're feeling like, I don't want to have to tell people I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to tell people I'm not going to do the thing. I just paid all this money for the degree. I could not be happier I didn't do that. I mean, it's like, best decision ever.
Yeah.
The problem was, and this is the kind of thing you can run into, and this is the kind of thing I think that will drive you to a pivot, is I could handle the coursework of being an attorney. I was good. I could, you know, I wrote things well. I did well in the classes. I could stand up there. But the thought of actually having to do it and have something, the anxiety that gave me was why I couldn't do it. I couldn't, at that time of my life. I mean, things would be different now. I'm a very different person, but that little mess who was 22, 23 years old, she did not want to do that. She did not have what it took, and it nearly pushed me over the edge, you know, and it was like, so when I finally acknowledged that, and then I've done, because, you know, you get out, you guys at least went into your field and practiced for a while and have like that basis. I never did that part, and I had zero appreciable job skills. It was like, here I am. I went to school for a very long time, and you can't go out and kind of practice law. You can't. It's like you either do it or you don't. It's you're on or you're off. So I am so not sorry. I have done so many interesting things. Even this crazy career that we're all in now, this whole proposals thing, it's been, I mean, it's always been interesting. I will say that my life has been interesting.
For sure.
Not easy, as I've made the joke many times. It's like sometimes I've thought to myself, maybe you could have taken the road a little more travel. You know, you didn't maybe have to make it this hard, but I don't know. Maybe I did. And so kind of trusting that the pivots I chose, even when I was choosing them, but sort of unconsciously, sort of ass backward, they all led here again. And I think that's making peace with that is one of the best things you can do. That instead of trying to steer the boat, going with the waves, and not with, you can't do it with everything all the time. You know, sometimes you have to make decisions and make things happen. Again, inspired action. But also it's like if you over plan, if you try to do things, I think sometimes that makes the universe laugh, and it's like, okay.
Exactly. And that's what, well, a couple of things. One is, just to start at that one, is that over planning, right? Which was that thing about the goals, like setting goals. I mean, they just have this huge thing about these SMART goals, and they're timed and they're managed and that whole aspect of it. But then if you don't fulfill it, you feel so guilty. You know, and the shame comes up because you're like, oh, I set this goal, and in a couple of years I was going to have this happen, or even whatever, 6 months, whatever it is. And you just can't, it's just, that makes it difficult. So like setting those things, I think it's better, like you said, is to ride the waves. Things can change, be positive about it. Even if they do change, you've got to look at the positive side of it. You know, like you said, that's what leads you here. And so then you can, because I think that whole goal setting has always, I don't know, I've just never been big on goal setting. And I mostly was like, when I was younger, I was mostly like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's go do that.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's fun.
Let's go do this for a year, or, oh, let's go live for here for 6 months and do this or that. And it's just like, so you're right. You do want to, but if you have some vision, and that has almost not completely come clear, because I'm sure there's going to be pivots to go, but I feel a lot more. I feel like I've matured so much in like life and seeing how things develop. And I did not have that perspective in 20s or 30s. Like I just didn't. You just
didn't either.
Don't have that. And so it's okay to like, we're not going to have these rigid goals, and we're, and then if it doesn't happen, then we feel, guilty. And this whole, that you just, and the whole thing about not being hard on yourself.
Yes.
It's like you're doing the best you can with the skills that you have at that moment, at that day, at that hour. Even like some of the things that we've dealt with in our work, like the three of us together in our work, literally in that moment, like that, literally that moment, sometimes you're just like, you panic, like you literally panic, and you're just like, okay, well, I'm going to do the best I can. What has happened? Okay, is there anything similar? Because that's always what goes through my head. Did I have this happen before? What is it we did before? Is there someone we can reach out to?
The go by is like the savior of all things.
Or anything.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But having those skills at that moment, so it's like you have to let yourself be nice to you, be good to yourself, and be, don't be hard on yourself, because even in a moment you might know what to do and you might have the skill, but that moment that you're there, it's like, no, you got to let someone else is going to help. I'm reaching out. Someone else is going to guide me. Like I'm looking for that support. Like that is in work and in life. So I just think for me, like I'm learning that skill through work a little bit, which is really kind of odd. Like most people are like, they learn that in their life, not necessarily, but I'm learning in work that with work, like reaching out has been such a positive, and things have gotten solved and done. And it's the same in your freaking life. If you're not feeling so hot, call somebody and talk to them about it. But you don't want to. You're just like, oh, it's going to pass. I'll feel better later tomorrow, or I'll feel better next week, or I'll feel better. Why not just open up and talk to somebody, So
in mindful self-compassion, there's a tenet of that, which is common humanity.
Yeah.
And it's both what you're talking about, reaching out, and it's also it's one of those deceptively simple things, but because when you're in it, it's so hard to remember. But if you say to yourself, anyone in my position right now would feel the same way, it's like, oh, when you can get your brain to just, it's like, because when you feel alone, again, you're outside the herd, you're lost, you know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Mhm.
Anybody who's
Yeah.
trying to make a $40 million deal work and know that if they screw something up, you could lose that deal, is going to be stressed, is going to feel, is going to, it's like all of these, it's like, remind yourself. And if you can't remind yourself, yes, reach out. Try to just, find someone
Asking
who
for help.
can, yes.
Ask for help. It's
Yes.
the weirdest thing, but it's exactly what you said. Ask for help. If you asked for help, there's something about it that doesn't quite sometimes sit right or feel right, or sometimes you don't even think to because you're so deep in the anxiety.
Yeah.
But the part that's funny is if I asked you for help, Laura, or you would jump. I know you would. I would
Mhm.
jump if
Yes.
you asked for help. So when
Yeah.
we turn it around and I think about it from a different point of view of like, well, if Laura asked for help,
Yeah.
of course, I drop everything.
Yes.
Same, with a lot of people. I mean, it's just
That's
is
a
that
good
way.
point. But you
Yeah.
feel so like in knowing that, and we kind of, I feel like we kind of all know that, and we do practice it. I think we try, even though I know we get it immersed and we don't, but
Yeah.
I just feel bad for other people that
Yeah.
you see these other struggles that people have had, and they're not, and you're just like, I wish they'd reached out to me. I
I
wish
know.
they,
Yes.
you wish you could like spread that word to people and be like, everybody does at some point.
Yeah.
And in fact, sometimes it makes the other person feel useful and
Yes.
good to know
Yes.
that they've helped you. It's like you're actually helping somebody else. How weird is that? I mean,
Yes.
but I just don't know how to solve that except
I
doing
know.
something like this pivot
Yeah.
podcast and things like that.
Yeah. That, and that there is another side, and another one of my other little mantra-y things is, you won't always feel this way. And
Yes.
I got to tell you, that one was a game changer for me, because man, when you are in it, and I know, I mean, personally, and that when you're in those places, a lot of times it is really hard to see anything beyond what feels like the wall in front of your face.
Mm-hmm.
And little things like that. And I know, I mean, I didn't start out like this. I went through a lot of really hard times before I gained these skills. Now that I've gained the skills, I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. It always, is like, woohoo, I'm great. But it's like, yeah, that's right. I won't always feel this way. Because when
Yes.
you're in it, you don't think like that. And it's like, that's right. I didn't feel like this last week. My life isn't always terrible. It isn't always bad. It's like, yeah. So it
Yep.
seems
Just write it out.
when you're doing okay, it seems ridiculous. But when you're in the shit,
Yeah.
it's like, that's when you need to just try to have that little, maybe you write it down and have it on a Post-it, so that it's like,
It won't feel this way all the time.
Yeah,
You
it
just
won't
won't. It
always
will
feel
get better.
this
Yeah,
way.
things will get
Yeah.
better.
We
And
we have
even-
we have another friend from grad school. I don't know if you remember Christine Hamlin.
Yeah.
We studied for our comprehensive exams together, and to put it in context, our comprehensive exams for the degree we got was intense. It was really intense. It was 4
16
days.
hours.
Yeah.
It was 16 hours of examinations.
Wow.
It was in all 4 subfields of
Yeah.
so you had 4 hours in each
Technically, it was
subfield.
probably more like 20 by the time everybody was all said and done. But you studied for months for these exams. I mean, months and months and months for these exams. And I mean, I think I remember starting in, December, January for exams we would be taking in April, May. And anyway, so this woman who's wonderful, it just felt so horrible sometimes, especially if you're not getting it, or if you're not remembering, or if, and it's just, it feels overwhelming. And I remember she would always say to me, this is one moment in time, Anne. And so it was one of those things that kind of helped me. I don't know. And it's carried with me for the rest of my life, that when I'm in a situation and I'm miserable, or if I'm, it's kind of like, it's one moment in time in the overall scheme of your whole entire life. This is going to feel like one little sliver. And just putting it in perspective like that always kind of, I don't know, it helps me. It's the same vein that we're talking about.
And it's not, I I would ever hesitate to say, when you're in a bad place and somebody says to you, it won't always be bad. It's not. That can be the toxic positivity, and it doesn't work. It actually
Like
kind of
telling
makes you
someone-
feel worse because it's like, I still don't feel good. I don't care, whatever. But there's something, I think, when you can get to a point of reassuring yourself and have that just that little switch that goes, that's right. I don't feel great, but I know I won't. And I always find that even in the moment, because there's still part of me who's just like, no, everything still sucks. This is bad. But it doesn't have as much power anymore, and usually it's kind of like,
Yes.
I don't always feel this way, because God, I get that mean voice in my head who'll just be like, nothing will ever be good again, and it doesn't even matter if anything's happened or what, but it's like, you're not helping. And so that little counteract, and I really, really believe it's because I've talked before about, my search for the disease of me, the cure for the disease of me. And it isn't going to be one thing. I don't believe that you'll ever find one thing that's going to be just like the miracle thing. And honestly, for me, it was the acceptance that there wasn't going to be a cure and that I was just going to be dealing things, but I would get better at dealing with things as time went on, which is exactly what happened. But I really learned it's about having kind of a toolkit. And it's about having a support system. That's a big part of it. Whether it's a therapist, a friend, somebody, that can't be overstated, because there will be the moments you can't pull yourself back out, where that you won't listen to that little bit of wisdom saying, it won't last. It's like, that is important. And I know that's really hard for people, but hopefully, listening to us maybe, or listening to other people, and know that there are people out there who really like to just be there for people who've been through their own shit. Trust me, everybody's been through some shit. Some people are just better at pretending it didn't happen. My Nan used to always say, let's just say that didn't happen. Or, let's just not talk about that. That's not good advice, Nan. Sorry.
I like what you said, though, earlier about it doesn't have the same power over you.
Yeah.
I think is how you said it. But it was like, oh, my God, yeah, that's it. That's
You
it. I'm
just
not going to
deflate it a
allow it
little.
to take over.
Yes, you deflate it a little bit. And it, again, it's not like, you can't just be like, everything's fine, it isn't like that. Never would I promise anyone that you can just switch your moods on and off. If you can,
No,
it's just maybe not a good sign, really, but you kind of learn. And trust me, there was a part of me for a long time who would have said, if I'd listened to me right now, I'd have been like, bullshit. I get in these states and there's no way out, and it was awful. It was really, really awful. But it gets better. It's the it gets better speech. You know what I mean? It's
that's why I think that you're the toolkit thing, and now like our wisdom now looking back, because that's like what you said, is if I could tell myself something, I would say just keep track of the things that, like, I think you and I think might have talked about this, that whole music thing, right? So I went through, it was a breakup, really. I used to walk, I don't even know. I probably went 8 miles, or I don't even know, because it was I didn't feel I felt I thought I was going to walk off the depression. And so I would go a long way and I'd be like, I still don't feel better. So I'm just going to keep walking. And, of course I had music on that was some of it was negative or whatever, but I did get a bit of relief when I got back, and I was basically exhausted. I slept better. I still was bummed out. I still woke up in the morning. I was still depressed in the morning, but it was it really, so that was one of my things. So walking has always been mine. So if you can get that little, and you guys have talked about this too before, the whole resiliency thing, that's all creating a toolkit and it should be modified for you, like a toolkit that helps you. I mean, certainly you can look things up, research things or whatever,
and try stuff. I mean, I
Yeah.
encourage people to try things, because I tried a million different things. I'm also, a walking maniac, just like you. And walking is, I always say my best ideas come from walking. And whenever I walk, it's like that kind of thing where it's like, why don't I? When I get out, I'm outside in nature as much as I can be in the middle of a big city, but still there's enough nature around me, and just the air and the sun or whatever's happening, it's amazing for me. So that works really well. And I agree too, music and walking, I can really, even even if I didn't set out for that to happen, I'll be kind of like, oh my God, that's right. This makes me feel better. And again, it's that, I don't know, and maybe it's my cuckoo crazy brain, but it's like, it has a real bad habit of forgetting the good stuff and just wanting to go back to that place. So again, we're all a work in progress. I don't want anyone to ever think I have figured all this out, because I have not. I do my best. I got in recently. I tried like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. I've done parts work, Richard Schwartz parts work. I've tried all different kinds of things through this stuff. And recently I got into EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, the tapping. And I've had incredible results with that. And I think part of that is where I am now too. So some things might not work. I jokingly said, I knew about it, but I think my ex-husband did it or was into it. So I was like, well, that's got to be dumb. That can't be good. So I let it go. And I was doing one of my courses on Insight Timer, and the person did EFT, and I'm like, well, okay, I'll try it, but I think it's dumb. And it was like, and it wasn't an immediate thing. It was like later on, I had this weird shift in my thinking, and I thought, was that because of that? So I started doing it more. And so, again, it's experiment, it's trial and error, and finding the things, and hoping you kind of find a way to fall into it when you need to.
Yeah.
And you just get better at it. I mean, again, the cure for the disease of me was understanding that I'm just going to be on this path and try to get better at it. And there was so much relief in that, because it wasn't like anymore trying to find, God knows, I went through, all the pills. I went through all the cuckoo crazy ideas I would read about for, trying to do things, because I was looking for one thing to fix everything. And spoiler alert, that is not how life works. Yeah. There really just isn't one. Whatever it is. But I'm really glad you said that, Laura, because one of the things that, what you said earlier, about resilience, and we kind of came into this talking about pivot when we first came up with this idea, when Anne and I came up with this idea of pivoting and a podcast about pivoting or whatever it was. And as the more we talked about it, like you and other people, it was like, a lot of this is about resilience. And it was kind of weird, because I had been on this, like, my, like, a goal for the year, a sankalpa or whatever, like they call it in Buddhism or whatever, was I wanted to work on my resilience. And I didn't at the time ever sort of connect the two. But boy, that is... Again, it's a skill you have to work at. It's not something that I think you can just. It's hard, because what is implicit in resilience is that something didn't go your way. Something didn't go the way you thought it was gonna, hoped it was gonna. I very recently went through a little. I was prepared for this, very much prepared for this, so it was not, but I am trying to get an agent for my book, and I started writing my first query letters, and I sent out my first one a while ago, and luckily Anne really encouraged me, and it's very brilliant advice. It's like, don't just have that one hanging out there, for so many reasons. Number one, my inspired action, once again, it's like, if you're not sending out more query letters, if you're not putting the energy toward it, that's not good. It's like not writing right now. That's not good. It's like, keep that energy flowing. But also, it's like, if you've only got one and they say no, that's going to hit a little harder. So I put out more query letters and stuff. Right, but this week, woo!
Seriously, we are 100% non-qualified, unprofessional armchair psychologists. The Pivot Happens podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for any form of professional mental or physical health care. If you are experiencing any mental health issues, please reach out and find qualified help. If you do not currently have a support system in place, the NAMI helpline provides the one-on-one help and information necessary to tackle tough challenges that you, your family or friends are facing. Call, text or email with the helpline MF, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. 988 crisis service available 24/7. Call 1-800-9506-264. Text NAMI to 62640 In a crisis? Call or text 988.